Hello everyone, nice to have you back for another episode of our 107 channel. Today's topic, repair of the Hirschmann antenna. Hirschmann antennas were widely used in the 70s and 80s in Mercedes-Benz cars. This is a AUTA 6000, which is the most common model in use in 107s, 116s, 126 and also in 123. If you intend to buy a 107 or have one and all of a sudden the telescopic mast is not working, then you should watch this video to see how to repair it. See you right after the introduction. Not many tools are required to open and repair the antenna: pliers, screwdrivers, an electric drill, some lubricant from Liquimoly and a cleansing spray from Brunox, and an external 12-volt power supply unit to test the antenna. The issue right here is it slides up, but not to a full extent. It somehow gets jammed half the way. Due to much resistance, obviously, we unbolt the housing. This is what it looks like from the inside. This quite large motor, the end of the guiding tube, in which the flexible drive is moving up and down. In here the flexible drive is being wound up in that housing. See? A view from the other side, the flexible drive is being clipped to the top end of the telescopic mast. When lowering the antenna, the top segment is pulling all other segments downwards and the coil in the center is winding up the drive. We need to unbolt the assembly from the bottom half of the housing, then loosen that screw here, which is holding the bottom end of the telescope in place. We now turn the upper part of this guiding tube and pull it out like this, just like this. This here is the drive, which is either pushing upwards or pulling downwards. Just unbolted these 3 screws of the assembly from the housing. Once the screws are gone, you can pull out the assembly. Under this round plastic cover is the flexible drive being pulled into, wind it up. It is all being well lubricated with long-lasting grease, but over time the grease is losing its properties and gets kind of thick and dense. The motor has to work harder and harder, wear and tear is increasing. Therefore we lift it out of the housing, turn it without damaging the flexible drive. A screwdriver or needle nose plier will do to get rid of that securing washer. After that you lift off that cover. As expected, the drive jumps right out, straight in your face. See that? Old grease, dust, dirt. The grease definitely lost all lubricating properties. To get rid of that old grease, I generally use engine bay cleaner from Liquimoly. I am quite convinced about Liquimoly products. This one here literally eats up the grease. Same here with that cover, old grease all over. I'll give the housing a wipe as well. We now apply some grease onto that plate where the drive will wind up, as well as over here where the drive is entering the spool, as well as in that cover. We now put the drive back into that cover. Make sure you wind it into that cover in a manner that the spool does not interlock. Real fiddling job. Click the cover back on that bolt. Then put back the lock washer. We are now done with the bottom end of the assembly. The motor is powering this revolving spiral coil. I'll enlarge the picture. We use a brush to get rid of the old grease and re-lubricate that part generously. An old toothbrush suits me nicely to remove that old grease. Do you see that spiral coil? It is like an endless revolving screw which is turning that round plate in which the drive is sliding up or down. Simple mechanical stuff and efficient. I now generously apply new grease. Before we tighten the bolts, we check if it is working now. We slide that guiding tube back into place, tighten the upper part of that tube. We now connect the power supply unit. You need the plus 2 times since we have to make the motor work in 2 directions. I connect the red to 12 volts plus, black to minus, and the second plus to the white cable to control the direction of rotation of the motor. It is like the switch sitting on the dashboard. Alright, I switch on the antenna, it prolongs to a full extent and retracts fully again. If there is too much resistance, this might be due to a lot of friction between the sections of the telescope. Use some lubricant and do it on a regular basis. Just use some multi-use lubricant spray, anything to make it glide easily. Give it a good wipe with some soft cloth to get rid of the dirt on the surface, to make the segments retract snugly into each other. I could do this for hours, in and out, out and in. I extend the antenna to its full length. Keep your hand on the imaginary switch control cable, the second red one, and spray some multi-use lubricant to the spots where the segments retract into the antenna. You do this a couple of times. The main culprit is grease, which is losing its lubricant properties over time. It is like thick cold honey, which makes it difficult for the motor to operate. And the other thing is, this guiding wheel is sitting on an axle with a spring, which is tensioning the wheel, pressing it against the drive to prevent the drive to jump out of its guides. So if this coil spring is broken, the drive is loose and cannot be wound up properly and gets jammed sometimes. See, there they are likely to break. See what I mean? This tiny piece of wire. The easy way is to loosen the spring at this pin. You can even steal a cloth bag from your wife and use the spring to replace the old one. You will be surprised, but it will work. A thin needle nose plier will do the job. This one here is alright, but I show you how to do it just in case. I replace it so you can see. To speed this up, I have unbolted the 3 screws holding the assembly to the lower housing as seen. I loosened up the guidance tube as well. So I got these 2 pins here, one to hold the coil spring which is tensioning the wheel. We now loosen the securing washer of the wheel first. Then we loosen the washer of the coil. Be aware that the coil might bounce. Next, use the plier to pull the coil upwards. See what I mean? This wheel is pressing against the flexible drive to hold it to its guides to enter the right spot on that spool. And if there is no more tension because of a broken coil, the antenna does not extend or retreat properly. This part is ridiculous. It will not cost you a penny. Just use a cloth pack to replace the old one. First, lift the assembly out of the housing. Second, a good idea to grease the wheel as well. Third, take the spring, the longer end facing towards the frame of that wheel, tighten it on top of that mount. Number 4, use plier to bend the shorter end on the other end so it is maintaining tension. 5, if all is in place, press spring downwards on that pin. 6, hold spring with one hand down so it will not bounce. 7, slide washer in notch on pin. Looks alright so far. Now next step. 8, press wheel downwards so there is enough room on that pin to slide washer into the notch. Done. Looks alright. We have assembled everything to make it work. Alright, slide assembly back in its housing. Tighten the tubular guide to the housing. Make sure it fits snugly. Then tighten the 3 bolts which hold the assembly in the housing. If your antenna is still complete, Open it up, it might be damaged due to corrosion. When water enters, well, that is another issue. If that is not the case, you can easily repair the antenna. You can even replace the flexible drive. A new complete antenna costs around €200. Take it out, open it up, do some degreasing and regreasing to save 200 quid and spend the money on other spare parts and drinks. C. Drive and a set of telescopes are available separately on the internet. Can be bought easily. Hope you have liked it. Please join me next time for another video, another episode. Bye bye everyone. Take care.